former Maryland gubernatorial candidate Ben Jealous making news, not in a good way. Full disclosure, I never worked for Ben. That's not fair, but I know Ben. I don't know if he knows me, but I know him. I met him. I wrote an op-ed for him supporting his candidacy in the Baltimore Sun. And, I supported him strongly for governor. But the bloom's off that rose. I'm disappointed, Carlos. This is another example where I know you've mentioned there have been some other issues involving Ben Jealous, but here he was head of the Sierra Club and now terminated.
Yep. I know he's challenging this as well. He said, I think in a post or something or press release or whatever, that he's going to challenge this through whatever legal means his contract allows him to. To me, it started off wrong. Like him becoming the executive director or like president of Sierra Club started off wrong because he had. I remember it was articles talking about how Sierra Club was going to shell out like $1 million or so to retrofit a different office for him because he didn't want to move to where the actual headquarters of Sierra Club is. So they're trying to like make him comfortable with coming in. I am always surprised when these big organizations get high profile people to be their executive director because I never understood what's the purpose of that. Is the purpose of it to say, hey, we need someone, is your job to bring in money? Because if your job is to bring in money, then cool, you're going to get someone high profile who knows how to raise dollars. If the job is actually like run the organization because you know about environmental stuff or you know about whatever the organization's main thing is, hire people who have like experience doing that, probably from within the company, like you were saying off air, like hire
promote within 100%. Yeah. It's definitely a fundraising position, right? I mean, that's their most important responsibility. By the way, just real quick comment from Stephanie. We should have intimidating looking, well-regulated leftist militias meeting these guys in the street. They are giant chicken S's walking around trying to intimidate people. I don't disagree. I think if you tried to do that, you'd get probably arrested. But maybe not. But I'm with you.
During the Black Lives Matter protests, you had Antifa out there protecting protesters and stuff. I mean, the right does it when they have protests. They have the 3%ers and stuff with the guns, the bulletproof vests and all that, and nothing happens to them. I think groups like Antifa, and I will say this, I'm not going to say anyone should go out and do it because I know I wouldn't feel safe doing that, and a bunch of people wouldn't feel safe. I think especially Black and brown people definitely are not going to feel as safe as maybe white people doing it. But I think definitely some of these groups who have done it in the past, this is definitely a good time to step up and challenge that. I don't really do you hear about Antifa as much as we used to?
No, I don't. I mean, not really at all. And I was never that even familiar with what they did. But I just want to make a comment about Brianna Joy Gray, because one thing I learned from her program, she was talking about the Black Panthers and how, in the late 60s and early 70s, they performed that role, right? They protected African-American protesters and freedom, right? Not really freedom fighters exactly, but people who were fighting for something better. And many of them were killed. And I really wasn't aware of that, but the FBI killed many Black Panther leaders. So the government is very prepared to deploy violence to maintain its monopoly on violence.
I mean, Black Panthers used to also do what they would call like police watches, where they would actually like follow police during their routes just to make sure that they're not terrorizing the Black community or have some kind of accountability. I mean, should these things come back? Yes. In the time that we live in, is it difficult? Because I think economically people are in a different situation because these are like full-time jobs basically doing that. And I think also like you said, the government has murdered people who have done this kind of work, but also that it is very like it's putting yourself out there for everything. I mean, you have people who are labeled as domestic terrorists just because they were holding police accountable and involved in the Black Panther movement. But hey, also mutual aid came out of that.
That's
The
right.
universal school programs like feeding breakfast. School breakfast came out of them. So yeah.
No, I there's a lot of positive that came out of the Black Panther movement, and I think a lot of the negatives have been exaggerated.
Yeah,
To
definitely.
say the least. So there's Ben. We've seen him at events. We've talked to him. I think I even introduced you him at one
No, you did.
event.
Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah. You were the person actually. You're the reason I first met Benjela. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, but you weren't impressed.
No, I'm not impressed by Benjela. I don't. I think it's maybe a personality thing. I my first interaction with him or meeting him was when we did a protest outside of the White House. I think this was while Biden was president.
Yeah.
And they were
I
doing like a
remember.
mass arrest thing. And hey, I know that has been done in history of people doing civil disobedience, getting arrested, all that. My view is kind of like I kind of see it as a privileged thing to do like civil disobedience and get arrested because you know that you're not gonna really face anything. But I know a lot of people, if we're talking about the majority of less like working class people, an arrest record could end your whole life, no matter what.
It was performative. I agree with you. This isn't like the sit-ins, right? Where you could get beat up by these racist cops, the sit-ins during the 50s and 60s and the civil rights movement. You could get beat up. You try to register people to vote. You could get shot. This was basically theater.
Yeah,
it was theater.
We're going to make a statement by getting arrested. But the problem is, if it keeps being just this like performance thing, a lot of people tune out and it was like, oh, these leaders were arrested and they were shortly released. End of story. Who cares?
Yeah. And I think most people recognize it's a load of crap. I mean, plus they're on the clock. They're getting paid for it too.
They really are. They're getting paid.
They're getting what's his name? Joe my former boss, Joseph Guivarese, he was arrested. Well, it was part of his job. It was part of his job responsibilities. Most people, they get arrested. It hurts them. It makes it harder for them to get paid. Not they get paid to get arrested. This, I thought, from the article in Maryland Matters, which is very thorough, give them a lot of credit. Carlos, by the way, has been published in Maryland Matters, so they obviously know what they're doing, at least sometimes. This looked really bad to me for Jealous. I'm kind of agnostic. I wasn't prepared to believe the worst about Ben whatsoever, and they're very, very circumspect. They don't tell you what he did, but what I get the sense is he treated workers badly. Yeah. That's just it, and probably really badly. So the Progressive Workers president, that must be the union at Sierra Club, said they were heartened, right? So the rank and file workers were glad, not just that he had been suspended, but that he was terminated. The union voted no confidence. They claimed that he was mismanaging the organization, the strategy, and the budget, and was attacking the union. And then I thought this was a very telling quote. We hope that his departure will open the door for a stronger relationship between workers and management and allow the Sierra Club to focus on fighting the administration. So, I mean, I think that kind of says it all. I don't, but there still, of course, is pushback. There still are going to be people who defend Jealous.
Yeah. I mean, hey, the worker said it best. Like he was not good at his job. And I mean, now I understand there's never going to be, I don't think there will ever be a union that is like full fronted. We support management ever. Cause I think if it is, then that's a problem with the union leadership then. But I think that from what they're saying, Ben Jealous caused a horrible, tumultuous situation where they were like, he's not even in support of us at all. And I mean, he oversaw the layoffs of multiple staff as well.
Yeah, well, you made the point it was a unanimous decision by the board. The article, Maryland Matters, the reporter had to dredge up to former board members, Mayer and Hansen, who did defend Jealous. And I have to say, this writing is a little bit provocative. They're trying, I think, to drum up a racial controversy where it may not even exist. Because if you read it closely, what the writer says, former board members defend Jealous, who is the nonprofit's first Black executive director. And I'm not a big guy in identity, but I want to just say this. Ben Jealous, Black, yes, but he's mixed race. His father's white. You saw his picture. And I think it's relevant because right? I mean, you talk to him, he fits. So he went to Columbia University. He's a privilege. He's part of the elite.
So yes, is he a part of the elite establishment of your, I'm trying to think of a good word, of your like your leadership class of like nonprofit elites? Yes. Is he still, yes, in him being mixed biracial, yes, he's still a black man. I will say he's a biracial black man. I will say it's like President or it's like Obama. He still is looked at, we all will look at him as a black person, whether he is biracial or he was just black. I will say this, that if we talk in society, and I've even heard this discourse before when it comes to like presidents, that it's easier for society to accept a biracial person than it is to accept just a black person who has two black parents as well. So I get what you're saying there. I think that could there have been racism within some of the people? Yeah, but that's everywhere could be racism. I think you also have to look at all the other stuff that goes along with it.
Sure. And let me just add, though, what I was saying before also is they defend him arguing that he was treated differently than his white predecessors. But if you look at the actual quote, they just say, well, they do say the first black exec. So the quote is the first black executive director is being treated like a fall guy, unfairly blamed for board and past management decisions. They don't say it's because he's black, though. They do say, yes, he's black, which I understand, of course, it's like one drop and you're black, whatever. But I think the reality is a little more complicated. There's some, and Jalen Rose, a former NBA basketball player, has made this point that some, like a black player at Duke University, they all speak, they speak like educated, right? I don't know how best, but like a Grant Hill, right? Have you heard Grant Hill speak? I mean,
no,
as opposed to having a more street type style.
Okay,
and
so it's a more, so you're saying it's like a more, yeah, it's not a good way to say this like publicly because it's very like,
it's provocative, but I'm trying. But it's relevant. You restate what I'm saying in a more acceptable way.
I feel like what you're trying to say is that he has a kind of a code switch to him. That he is his code switch to be like acceptable to your mainstream white audience. He does that more so than you would have other people who will not.
Nina Turner. He's not a Nina Barack
Turner type.
Obama and Ben Jealous are one similar side. Nina Turner would be on the other.
No. Okay. Yeah. I agree with that. I agree with that. And I think that, and I also say, I think, having a Nina Turner type would not, I don't think this people of Sierra Club may not even like that kind of style. They will be like, that's a little too much. So Ben Jealous could be their good fit. I also think that I agree with you in the sense of like even reading the quote again, they're not saying because he is black, this is why he's being treated differently. What it seems like they are saying is that how he's basically has to take the fall for the previous actions of the board. I will say, like for most businesses and nonprofits, that is kind of how it goes. Like once you become the new head person, it's up to you you can take a change from all the past things that have happened and say, yeah, that was signed off by them, I'm not signing off on it. Or you keep it going. I mean, so you got to you do what you got to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, oh yeah, duh. So somebody screwed up before you're stuck holding the bag. I mean, that's just the way it goes. Yeah. That's not a race issue to me. And they don't say that, right? When you ultimately look at it. And as you pointed out, there are a lot of concerns among the African-American employees. And I think this is where and other employees of color, where class really plays such a big role that we kind of ignore. And a lot of times the focus is on race rather than class, because when we focus on race, we don't unite people who are poor, struggling, and working against elites. And that's what I think we need to do.
I still, me, I still kind of disagree with that a little bit too. I think it's hard. And I'll always say this. I think it's hard to have a working class movement. And I agree with having a working class-based movement. But I think at the end of the day, it is hard for, I'll speak for myself, me as a Black person, to see how that is going to fully come to fruition when you have historic moments of us being a class base fighting for like Social Security and other things. And then when white people, they get what they want out of it and Black people don't get what we want, it's kind of seen as, hey, that's your fight, not our fight. And I think those harms have to be repaired. Now, is it before or after we do the working class fight? I don't know. It's just a hard thing for me. Like, it's like when, what was it? It was Social Security. It was passed. It didn't go for like domestic workers or certain farm workers and stuff. You really didn't hear white people, I think, come out in disagreement with that as much as it was the white working class who fought for Social Security. You even look at things like the farming bill. There used to be a whole lot of Black farmers. As they started to dwindle down, you didn't see the farmers bureaus and things saying, oh no, Black farmers need to get treated like we're getting treatment. It was like, what y'all got is what you got. You got to figure that out for yourself. So I don't know what's the solution to the working class like fight together, but it has to be a change. People have to feel like no matter what happens, they're going to be protected.
Yeah, I think you raise a really good point. And my question was going to be, so what do we do about it? Because I think it's fair to say that government policies that have been designed to reduce injustice, reduce economic inequality, have sometimes, not always, but have sometimes focused on poor, struggling white victims of the economy rather than and excluded African-American victims of the economy who are disproportionately more likely to have been victimized. So I agree with you. That is a reality. But then what do we do about it? Because even the policies that you're talking about, like Social Security, sure, it was implemented in a way, it was started in a way, it was passed in a way that disproportionately benefited whites over Blacks. But in the end, the policy has actually benefited Blacks too. It's actually been good for both groups.
Yeah, you're right.
So
I think from the start, having these policies from the start and there being a sense of like, we will not capitulate on this, like a universal healthcare, Medicare for all. I think from the whole movement of it, it needs to be a thing of like, this is what we want, everyone covered, everyone being taken care of. And then also within the message, mentioning we also want to see advancements or like money put towards ending the maternal mortality rate and making sure that Black women aren't dying more than white women when it comes to childbirth, making sure that like all these investments in medical healthcare go towards the Black communities that have been disproportionately affected. And then I'm an equal opportunist when it comes to like highlighting stories too. Highlight the stories of the white people in these rural areas who are just hooked on methamphetamines and other drugs that just get kicked to these rural communities too, but also highlight the Black communities in doing it as a all or nothing. We're not going to take you investing in the white communities and then white people say, hey, we're done. Just like as Black people, we're not going to take just investment in the Black communities and we're done too. I mean, we've never really seen investment just go to Black communities anyway, but everyone's gonna, it's all or nothing.
Yeah, no, look, these are tough. These are thorny issues. They really are, because universal single payer healthcare would certainly benefit Blacks and whites. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So we should do it.
You're right.
But there are going to also be disproportionate outcomes that will continue, right? Yeah. There will still be probably worse outcomes for Black people than white health outcomes, even with universal single payer. But those disparities will likely be reduced. I think almost everyone agrees with that. And then we'll be in a better position to address the disproportionalities that continue. But no, it's true. I mean, look, I will say this. And it's purely anecdotal, but just my wife will talk about like Black male teachers, Black men that she's worked with, and they seem to die young. I mean, we know that just Black men die young. Yeah. And there are a lot of different factors, but it's just the way it is. And this is something we need to address. But I do think that universal single payer coverage, Medicare for all, would reduce that that terrible trend,
Agreed.
terrible fact.
Agreed.
It doesn't eliminate it, so let's look at what else eliminates it. It's not, the single payer doesn't eliminate poverty, doesn't reduce, we have to address poverty, we have to reduce stress, we have to reduce challenges getting jobs, challenges getting promotions, all those things. But it seems to me that shouldn't stop us from imposing, because one solution which will make things better doesn't make it perfect, doesn't mean we don't do it.
Agreed.
All right, so here's my issue. This has nothing to do with race.
No,
but Ben Jealous, and this has to do with the idea of fundraising. Look, Ben Jealous comes out of finance to a significant degree, much like Wes Moore, the current governor and of Maryland. I think there's a problem. You know, these are people who go into business who are at least in part motivated by desire for themselves to self-enrich.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But that's not somebody who I think should be running a nonprofit. That's not somebody who should be running a state. No. And I wish the Sierra Club had factored that in mind. Now, they paid him over $400,000. It's a very generous salary. You can make more if you're a CEO, obviously, in the private sector, but probably in some ways, not in every way, in some ways, this is a less challenging situation. And you can feel good about yourself. You're doing good work, or you hope, for the Sierra Club. Yeah. But, you know, his record speaks for itself, and it wasn't really
the best.
You know, public interest.
He made his name off of the NAACP leader, and then he made his name off of running as becoming the Democratic nominee for governor here in Maryland, and which was a huge feat. I will say this was a huge feat for him, especially when the odds were stacked against the progressive person. I mean, you also had it in there. He also worked for Jewel. Like, so you also have, like, it's like you take your good with your bad. And yeah, I mean, yeah,